Hello everyone. Thanks for joining. I hope you guys are all doing great. I would love to start by thanking you all for taking the time from your busy schedule to invest in your development by joining our webinar. I'll perhaps just start by presenting myself. My name is Fabio Assis, and I am the Director of Operations for Keyrus Canada, based in the cold but sunny today, Montreal. Keyrus is a major player in consulting focus mainly on the data and digital transformation with a worldwide presence in over 3,000 consultants. Today with me, we have Ygal Levy, an expert in low-code, no-code solutions that will guide us through the many benefits in using the technology and how to identify opportunities and use cases. After Igal's presentation, we will have a few minutes to go over a Q&A session. So feel free to use the question box that we have on the platform, or even email us when the presentation is over. So, Igal, thanks for joining us. I'll leave you to take us on this journey.
Thank you so much, Fabio, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation. Good morning to everyone from my end as well. So today we will be covering indeed a webinar about low code. Maybe as a quick intro, I myself am a low code, you can call it expert. So I've been playing and implementing low code solutions as well as no code solutions for the past 5.5 years now for different accounts, small, medium, as well as large corporates. We'll get into detail in a few minutes. Let me start by sharing my screen with you guys. If there's any issues with the screen sharing or seeing the screen, feel free to comment or ask a question in the chat so that my colleagues Fatin and Fabio could assist. Thank you so much. Let's share the screen. So the talk today is going to be about creating business apps without breaking the bank, with a strong focus, obviously, on low code and no code. We'll go through the basics. What is no code? What is low code? We'll go through a few case studies as well today. And we'll also go through a few tips on how to identify a potential opportunity within your company for low code. So just as an introduction, I myself work for Unicorns. So Unicorns is part of the Keyrus group. We are you can call it the innovation lab of the group, where we work on different topics. So we have three main topics we work on. One is a startup studio. So from companies who have an ID or young people who have an ID, we go from the ID to the go-to market and building the whole tech around it. We've also got the innovation factory, which means that we'll go through, for example, a specific application that's a bit outdated, that hasn't gone through innovation in the last couple of years, or a refund, and we'll recreate the app or remake some existing features within the app to make it up to date. And of course, we have a community of experts as a service, where we can also just offer low-code consultancy, for example, on demand. So first of all, let's go to the basics. So what is no code? So no code or low code we'll go through in a second, but no code, let's start with the basics. No code basically refers to building products. Could be a website, an app, whether mobile or web app. Could build an e-commerce store, but the whole idea is of building it very quickly without having to spend months and months on trying out the first version of an app, for example. Today's technologies have made it possible for companies to try and test very quickly in a matter of a few weeks. So no code, the word no code says it all. It means there is actually no coding necessary, as in zero code. So no code solutions, as you see a few on the right, they focus on different types of no code solutions. Some of them being the web apps. So for the web apps, you've got apps such as Bubble, you might have heard of, or Softer. For building mobile apps, you have applications such as Glide, Adalo, or Flutterflow, which is great. So Flutterflow, the Flutter language developed by Google. You've also got automations, for example, which is one of the main no-code advantages. So you've got tools such as Zapier and Make that allow you to automate basically between two tools, for example, an accounting tool and a marketing tool, to create the link between those tools without having to be a developer. So it allows you to basically go much faster, with main advantages being to create business apps or automations much faster, but also to adapt the product in the future. Say you would like to change your mobile apps button of the login screen which is in the top right corner, you want to change it to the left-hand corner, you don't actually require any code. You can actually just drag and drop it to the left, for example. So here we have a few tools just to give you an idea. Here I've mixed the no-code tools and some low-code tools. So no-code means this is zero code. However, there are also low-code tools. Low-code tools mean you can basically, on your end, go further. You can actually code in them. So it means you can you can compare it, if you know Wix or WordPress for websites, where you can drag and drop solutions or specific components as being the same, except low code will allow you to go much further. If you want to go into the code, there's no problem. So solutions, for example, as Microsoft Power Apps allow you also to go further and actually create some code. You could actually link it to APIs. Most of these tools, you can link it to your own tools if you want, but all of these are obviously, as you can imagine, cloud-based solutions. So why do we love it? Just to give you a short example before we go into the next steps, I'm just going to share here a small video. This is, for example, Flutterflow. So Flutterflow has both no-code and low-code within the solution. So as you can see, to build, for example, an events app, so an app for an event, you can just drag and drop the main components you want to be using. So as you can see here, the different event names, drag and drop, and then fill in those fields with, for example, data from, could even be from a Google Sheet, from an Access database, from any source you can imagine.
Sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah, sure.
we're not able to see your screen anymore.
You're not able to see my screen anymore. Okay.
Thank you. So if you can just take over the presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let me know if that works now.
Yeah, it works. Thank you.
So
Perfect.
I hope everyone saw these logos. So we were talking about different apps of low code, and we're giving a specific example here, which is, for example, Flutterflow, which allows you to drag and drop, as mentioned, different components and fill them from data from your databases that are cloud-based and any other tools. So just to give you an idea on the international adoption of low code. So internationally, there's a research. By the way, I can send it to you also after this talk if you're interested. It's written in the bottom. It's a research written by KPMG, which basically talks about different use cases that were very proven on an international scale. So a major retail bank has built, for example, 23 different apps in a period of 23 months with a rhythm of one app per month, which is quite fast for basically improving the customer experience to solve specific issues. A financial services company built a loan eligibility app within 6 days. We can go through a bunch of examples. International airports in the US have built one new app every 2 weeks. So as you can imagine, when we talk usually about classical app building, we usually imagine it takes months and months to build. However, as you can see, there are examples ranging from 6 days to a few weeks' time to build actually pretty complex apps that serve a specific problem that they are facing. Now, just to give you an idea about how the market is evolving, as you all know, developers are hard to find. Good ones are hard to find, but also more and more expensive, which is also part of the reasons why these low-code applications have come into place. So by the estimation of 2024, you'd be looking at approximately 65% of new app development that will be going through low-code solutions. So that means not full coded solutions, but there's a small part of code, but a lot of drag and dropping, as we saw before, for the design elements, for the components elements, which means you don't actually have to reinvent the wheel, but 65% is obviously a huge number. Some are predicting 70% by 2025. So also an interesting stats to have in mind is that by 2024, that same year, 3 out of 4 large companies will be using at least 4 low-code tools. So we saw a few logos before. So it could be that a company will be using Microsoft Power Apps and at the same time using, for example, Flutterflow and different solutions for IT application development. One of the questions you might be wondering is what is the whole solution about shadow IT? Well, actually, that's the whole beauty of it. It's kind of avoids shadow IT, and it allows citizen developer programs to actually build apps that solve a daily need that they have. So we'll go through a few use cases, and we'll start with first use case, which is for one of the biggest companies in the beauty industry, where we've implemented different low-code solutions to basically transform traditional Excels into applications. Let me show you and share you the video. In this video, we'll show you a case study of Power Apps for a large company in the beauty industry. So they initially had different Excel sheets, as you can see here, and here, for calculating the cost of a blind user test for different markets, France, Germany, etc. So these Excel sheets had a bunch of different macros and formulas that were linked to it to calculate different costs. However, this was not maintained well and is harder to maintain. It's also not so ergonomic or not so user-friendly for the customers to use. So what we've done for them is we've built a BUT cost requester. Now, what's a BUT cost requester? It's a blind user test cost requester. As you can see, it starts here with a few manual guides on how to use the application that the customer can go through. And if I click here, you're going to be able to see that if you click on skincare, for example, you can select the country, France, and you want a monadic 1 to 2 weeks use. You want to have 2 cells and you want to have full face-to-face and an incidence of less than 5%, for example. You want to even add a few options such as consumer photos. You want to add consumer videos and mobile recalls. You can do that just here. For the logistics, you can also calculate it immediately. So in person, there you go, and you click on Get My Quotes. And as you can see here, you get the answer and the fixed cost and variable cost for doing such a blind user test that is automatically calculated. If you want to go into the detail, that's of course also possible. So if you click here on details, you'll be able to see how much the cost of a blind user test will be, the different costs related to it, and will basically accelerate the time and the errors that were done in these different manual Excel sheets. So this is a case study for Power Apps in the beauty industry. Hi, in this video, we'll show you. So as we can see in the video, we'll go maybe in these steps and cut it into two, the before and the after. So this issue that they had with the different suppliers, of course, it was a specific functional scope that they had, limited to a certain amount of users. So we'll be looking here in that case, for example, about 15, 20 users that they had. So it's a business problem that they had with an Excel and with macro formulas that were not maintained. Classical large company case, because a lot of Excels, a lot of small Excels are surrounded by different departments and used by different departments. And there needs to be a certain agility for it to be used in the business context. So Microsoft Power Apps was the best solution we provided due to the fact that initially they wanted to continue building a new macro. We said, let's not go to macros, but actually build a solution that is scalable and with, of course, a great interface compared to an Excel. And that doesn't require a long training. So this was the visual of the, as you can see, of the end. So this advantage is that it's integrated Microsoft Power Apps into the process, because obviously Microsoft is managed and secured, as well as the governance by the IT department. So no risk of data leaks, no risk of any security issues, as it goes through the exact same process for all the Microsoft accounts within a company. So obviously no more maintenance also of macros. And now if someone starts a new job in that company, no need to go through a long onboarding process to understand how the tool works. It's very ergonomic, like any business applications or any app that people use nowadays. We try to make it as simple as possible. And of course, the advantage is that all these components can be reused. So the designs that were used for one application can be reused for another applications without having to spend the same time. To give you an idea, this project took about a month. Time from the initial understanding, explanation of what the problem was, through the first delivery within a week was of the designs, and within a month it was fully implemented within the company. Another use case, which is now not in low code but in no code. So no code, to remind you, is without any coding. So for example, to build an application nowadays, say that you are maintenance company and you want to have, or a garage company, or any kind of distributor, and you have a bunch of products you sell to different customers all over the US or Canada or even abroad. This is a very simple example of how you can actually build an app, and I will show you just on the screen. So this is an app that contains, let me go back. It contains the different parts that that company has. You can see the stock levels. You can even update the stock levels if you've sold some. So you can ask the staff that sold a specific item to put it in there. And at the same time, you can also follow up here in that simple tool which orders are in transit. As you can see, you can say it arrived, unloaded, the stock was updated, for example. You can see that there was a small truck based on specific actions. You see that it also was removed, so you can also see the past orders. And you can also see, for example, here all the different suppliers or customers that you have. How much did they order? All of these customers, for example, so that you can have an overview on the field, or you can even go through reporting if you want within the app. So these apps, for example, this specific case can be built in we're talking about a week or two, and linking to the data. So you can actually automate even if you have a delivery system, for example, or logistics system, you can link that data and automate it, so that there's no actual input even by the member on the field. So now comes the main question, is how can you identify a low-code opportunity within your company, and how can you get started? So very easy case to find within a company is obviously the classical Excel sheets. If you know that within your company you have different employees doing double input or doing manual tasks within the Excel. Another example is, of course, if you have macros and formulas that are maybe maintained or not so well maintained. These are perfect examples of how you can create business apps. And if your company has a Microsoft license and the right one, they can actually very easily build it on Power Apps. Second example would be, for example, you have an idea, you want to try something out. Say you're a large corporate bank in Canada, and you want to try a new idea that you have that you want to build on the market. And before actually spending 6 to 9 months on developing a product before you can actually test it, you can actually do a minimum viable product. That's what we call it in technology, where you can actually try it out on your clients or customers or suppliers within a few weeks' time. As we mentioned before, it involves design-wise quite a lot of drag and drop, but you can really make it fully customized, and you can actually copy different worldwide apps that you know for ordering taxis and deliveries nowadays. It's actually quite easy to create your own nowadays. There's a bunch of templates even that exist to build those. Now, no code, low code. Also, of course, if you have an idea of a browser or mobile app that you want to build, you can build it the full version twice as fast, usually even sometimes 3 times as fast by using those components we mentioned. So no need to wait 9 months to deliver first version of an app. You can do a minimum viable product or even a finalized project in a few months' time. Also, very classical case is within companies, like forms. So, for example, if you ask people or clients or some of your shops, for example, to fill in forms, could be for an audit or different purposes, you can basically collect this contact data and automate the whole process. So you don't want to have any double inputs by having someone fill in a paper sheet, fill in by someone else again in the system. You can basically automate it. And for example, if you want to send out automatic messages to customers when they came to your shop and bought a new shirt, you could actually automate a small message that is very personalized related to what they actually bought in your shop. This is something that you can do actually in a day or two, such an automation of a process. You can also obviously create tools for automating those business processes that we mentioned that require double inputs. So for example, if you want to be linking different tools, so an example of Microsoft, for example, they have a tool called Microsoft Power Automate, and Power Automate basically allows you to link different tools and automate processes. For example, so when a mail comes in from customer X, you have to automatically send this data from this email to a second person that needs an approval, for example. Once this form has been approved by that person, it needs to be sent out to the logistics department or the order department or the finance department. So you can really define a full process. And if it's automatable, you can automate 4, 5, or the most I've done in one automation is 55 automations that are reproducible and not done manually anymore. And last one is also if you want to test new functionalities. So if you have, for example, an app that's been built in in real code, and you want to try out some different functionalities, some of these tools even allow you to build functionalities that you can actually just link into the system, um, into the existing app that you have, so that you can test, for example, a new functionality for your app, whether it's automated alert or something or notifications. You can build that in, even if you've already hard coded it, you can actually link it and not have to code it all again. So these are the main ways to identify a low code opportunity. And just to round off, of course, how should you approach no code projects? Well, you usually start by an audit. You can either do that yourself or with companies such as Unicorns and Keyrus, which basically means we're going to understand the problem and the need or the market potential that you're having. Once we've identified the opportunity and confirmed that it could be done in no code or low code, then comes the second phase, which is the phase of shaping the product. This actually goes really fast. So you can actually, in a matter of weeks, we're talking usually about 2-3 weeks time, already have an outline, a design of how the product will look like. So you can actually perfectly imagine how it will look like once, once the product is completely finalized. After you've shaped the product, you will start the process of building the product. What does that mean? We usually start by building the minimum viable product, which means the designs are in place. We already link it with the data. It works perfectly on a smaller set of data. So we can go out there and already test it with the customers, the employees that are going to use that tool. And of course, last but not least, the product has to evolve, because you will have some returns or some feedback from your colleagues that say, well, we need that button or we need that data as well. So obviously, it can very easily be improved by making those changes within those no-code or low-code solutions. It doesn't require any coding often. Just if you want to add a specific field or data field that could be used, it's a matter of a few minutes to display this data within the application. So this is the usual approach that you should have before building. So you don't build before you have thought about what the issue is. First, you audit. Usually, you shape afterwards. So you have designs, you build it, and you make the product evolve. It's pretty much or very similar to what some startups go through. So it's a very flexible process. It's with iterations. Some work with Scrum, other with other methods, to make sure that this process is as smooth as possible and that nothing is overseen before going live with a specific product. So that is all I had to present today. And we kept a few minutes just to go with you through the potential questions you might have had. So we're going
Thank
to
you
take
very
it.
much, Ygal. Uh,
Thank
w-
you.
Thank you. So, guys, you can actually submit your questions on the platform. We do have a few ones here. I will start with a few ones that we currently have, and that actually will give people a little bit more time to type in the questions. So, first question that actually comes here, Igal, is Power Apps secure for larger companies, corporates?
Yeah, good question. And in that, I would say that would be the first question I usually receive when talking with large corporates. So Power Apps, for example, in that specific example, is actually within the Microsoft environment. So the IT department of a large company manages the whole environment, where it goes from emails that you might have with Outlook, such as which of course Microsoft. So that means that it's governed, secured, and there's no risk of any security or data leaks, because this is usually managed already on an IT level. So actually, a lot of IT department are very happy to avoid all this shadow IT as well that is going on in Excel specific data sheets that are within the company that contain company data. While if you do work through Power Apps and databases that are part of Microsoft in that case, you work in that specific and secure environment, which reduces the risk almost to zero.
That's very good. Thank you. We do have another one here saying, okay, so once developed and deployed, how can these solutions be managed?
Um, one of the main advantages that is explained with regards to no code and low code is that the whole maintenance process. So, if you've built an app in no code or low code, the whole maintenance of changing data points or changing a field or changing a visual is actually very smooth. The word citizen developer means that you're giving actually the members of your companies, the employees, etc., the power to build business apps themselves without actually having to consult the IT department, which might have had a long roadmap already of apps to build. So the whole intention of no code and low code tools is that you can actually manage and adapt those yourselves. You need what profile would you need? You'd be looking at a digital savvy person that has some basic knowledge of usually design, or some limited coding, but very limited. So you don't actually need to consult your IT department to make a small change to your app. You can actually do it yourself. So the citizen basically takes the power on the business apps that they use and that they build. No need to wait through for IT to go through these processes.
Thank you very much, Ygal. We are running short in time, but I think we can squeeze in just one last question just to leave everything
Okay, one last
answered.
question.
So basically, it's a multiple question, but we can figure it out the way to answer this. So, what are the first steps on deploying a low code solution? Can you intervene on initial phases such as audit, planning, and how costly are those solutions? So let's try to answer those two
Yeah.
questions in one.
Sounds good. So you, as mentioned, usually start with an audit session, or I rather call it a brainstorming session. This can be done through a video call or even in person, where you usually have a big whiteboard, which is a perfect example where you'd be drawing at the ideal tool and how you see it. So a person should be able to draw it before you start working on it, or we can work on the drawing together based on the business needs. But the best example is usually take a whiteboard and you start drawing how you would love that application to look like within your company. How easy you can make it for your company and employees. So that would be the first step, is that whole brainstorming session. It doesn't take days. If it's a really large application, it can take a few days time, but it's essential because then you're actually making sure you don't miss out on anything, as we mentioned before. The second part of the question, which talks about how costly these solutions are. So most of these solutions are actually software as a service, which means that they are actually not too costly. So if you're looking at, for example, Glide, which was that inventory tool that I showed just before, that inventory tool, you have the basic license, which costs about 20-25 euros. And usually one license suffices. You don't need licenses for everyone. If it's, for example, an app that just has to visualize data internally, you don't actually need licenses for everyone. But you'd be looking at some of these tools range from 10 15 dollars or euros. Well, depends of the conversions, because we have a few people from different countries here. But you're not looking at very high costs. So the licenses of these tools are actually very affordable, and you should not expect a huge cost on that end. But we can definitely brainstorm on what the best way is for you to, or which tool to use for your project. So would love to discuss that in person.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ygal. We're actually running short in time. We actually extended 3 minutes past the time. So I want perhaps to invite you guys to email us the questions if you guys have further questions. We currently do not have time to go over everything. Um, Once again, thank you all for taking the time from the busy schedule to talk to us, to hear from Igal. Igal, thank you very much,
My
and,
pleasure.
and perhaps see you next time on the next webinar.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.